Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Guzelya Marisova.
Sure. Walaikum assalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Brother Ramas. Thank you so much for having me. I think our encounter was very random, to be honest, right? It was like connected
True,
to
true.
your wife and my book, mashallah, which is, and then when I got to know that your wife is French, and of course, I mean, like yourself as well, and I was like, wow, subhanallah, what a coincidence, right? So yeah, alhamdulillah. I mean, thank you so much for having me. So first of all, of course, my name is Guzelya Marisova. I was in fact born and raised in Kazakhstan. I moved to France when I was 18 years old, so I was pretty much an adult. But I believe that France was instrumental to build me as a person who I am today, because I became an adult there. And yeah, I mean, I studied in France, and then I also studied in the US for a year, in South Korea. So I had pretty much an international exposure. Later, I started to work in a finance industry, and that's where I
Okay,
started to be more interested about Islamic finance,
okay,
and that's how I ended up being in Malaysia, alhamdulillah. So and during my time in Malaysia within this investment and startup ecosystem, I encountered my future husband at that time, and he happens to be Indonesian, and that's how I moved to Indonesia. Now I work here as a head of global partnerships for Paragon Corp, which is a leading cosmetics group in Indonesia and Malaysia. Alhamdulillah. And yeah, it's been a wonderful journey of in a professional field, what I could, do things that I'm good at, but at the same time, benefit the ummah and work in an Islamic environment and feel comfortable. Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. That's a very nice intro and I think, very to the point. The company you're working for, they have, by the way, they have very nice beard oil.
Oh, yeah, everybody says that.
Yeah.
Mashallah. Yeah. And
Alhamdulillah.
recently we
Yeah.
got Habib Nurmagomedov visiting us here for this
Yes.
coffee. Yeah,
Yes, I've
which of
seen
course,
that. I've
like,
seen that. But strangely, suddenly the whole event was canceled. That's what was my
The,
last
one-
update
the
for
one in
Indonesia.
Indonesia. Yes. So
Mm-hmm.
this one
Mm-hmm.
was not arranged with Paragon. It was another party that
Okay.
was inviting them. So I think they had some reasons for,
Okay.
canceling it or
Understand.
maybe postponing it. Yeah. But
Okay.
Alhamdulillah, the
Okay.
one with Paragon, it happened. He came on 28th of
Oh, okay.
September
I've seen the
to
photos.
Indonesia. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he was
Yeah.
here with
Okay.
us.
Great. 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 Great human being, to talk with and everything,
Yes, he's mashallah amazing person. And by the way, I think you already mentioned about my book. Yeah, I just want to also introduce about that a little bit. I always wanted to write books because I love writing. I love, having the diaries and stuff like that. And I always knew I'm gonna write something, but I never knew my first book would be a children's book. So yeah, and
Okay.
alhamdulillah, I'm really happy that it happened to be something meaningful, which is a charitable project to support our brothers and sisters in Palestine and also raise
Alhamdulillah.
awareness of what's happening with them, right? And what has been happening for the last
Yes. Yes.
75
Yes.
years. So
Yes. Yes. True.
Alhamdulillah, like I'm also the children's book author now. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. So, but what inspired you? I mean, initially to write books because you work in corporate.
Yeah.
Obviously, you are exposed in Indonesia or in Malaysia to Islam a lot. You live an Islamic lifestyle. But how come that you suddenly say, okay, I need to write a book?
Yeah, subhanallah, this came when I became a mother. It was 4 years ago when I had my son, and the need came from the point of view that I'm an Uyghur, and I grew up in a pretty much like a mixed Kazakhstani background, where is obviously we consider ourselves Kazakhs, we're proud of it, but at the same time we respect our ethnical background, but we speak Russian, so it's a very multicultural environment where I
Yes,
grew
yes,
up with.
I
Yeah.
can hear.
But I never had an issue of understanding the fact I was Uyghur because I always had a Uyghur community there. And even in Paris, we have a pretty like active Uyghur community. We have Uyghur restaurants, we have events there, so you cannot forget the fact that you're an Uyghur. But being in Indonesia, we have like practically zero Uyghurs here. I only know one person who always happens to work in the US, but
Interesting.
sometimes he comes to Indonesia because his family is half Indonesian as well. But it is really rare to encounter Uyghurs. And for me, the challenge was how I'm going to teach my child about his Uyghur background. I mean, he has a French passport, but at home we speak Russian and I speak Russian with him. But then ethnically we're not Russians, so we need to have clarity here, you know. So for me, it was basically the problem statement, and that's where I'm like, I think I need to like introduce like Uyghur items maybe, and maybe we should travel to places where we can meet Uyghur people, and maybe I should tell him stories. So that's where the need came from, and the inspiration was that I guess it's my own childhood imagination of what my homeland is like. Also, although I've never been there, I listened to the stories of how beautiful East Turkestan is, and I was always like imagining it some kind of a magical land, with bazaars and the singing dunes and all of these wonderful things that I wanted to explore one day. And up until today, I never visited, but I still have this image of what it looks like. And subhanAllah, it took me a year of discussing with people who are experts in geopolitics, who are also people that are coming from that region to tell me about what are those main areas that I should talk about, what are the main areas that I should tell story about. And throughout the like whole year, alhamdulillah, I was able to gather all the information, write a story. And it was in October last year when I found an amazing illustrator that could create these images. And then October 7th happened, where the whole world started to segregate into like pro-Palestine and against Palestine way, which was ridiculous to me because it was not about being pro or against, it's about being human. And that's where I realized, like, subhanAllah, I guess this issue should be, spoken more about now when people are finally ready to listen to it. And inshallah, this will be the gateway to tell the stories of other oppressed people. And that's where of course, still had challenges. I'm not Palestinian. I'm not an expert of the question of Palestine or Middle East. How am I supposed to write this cause? I don't own the story of those people, right? And then, but Alhamdulillah, this all depends on the intention. When I had this intention to do something
Definitely.
for our brothers and sisters in Palestine, I started to meet Palestinian people who are experts, who are ustads, who are this and that. And they were like telling me, we need Arab, non-Palestinian voices to speak up about the cause. And what you want to do, being having the fact that you're Uyghur and also French, it is actually great that someone like this will be telling the story. And then this gave me courage and motivation to, alhamdulillah, write it. And I'm glad to know that by the end of this year, the book will be available in 6 languages and
Ah,
being supported
okay.
by quite a number of also influential people that are in their own industries using their platforms to speak up about the cause. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. That sounds already very amazing. The book, I mean, I know it myself. I will put it as well on the afterwards in the background or directly into the picture.
Mm.
We will. What is exactly the name of the book? I mean, I will put it anyway on, but
Yeah,
let
yeah.
me know again
Yeah,
of the name.
yeah, the name is it's basically a series called Eldar and Elnur. The main characters are Uyghur children from France, born and raised in France. So they'll be exploring different ethnical groups around the world, and telling like stories of different people and learning together with the readers, right? So the current book, the first book, is called Story of the Stolen Homes. It came as an inspiration from a conference that I joined as a volunteer called Story of the Stolen Land. And I was so inspired by the title. And the title was made by my friend Tere, who is a creative in Indonesia. She's a Muslim woman who does a lot for Palestine as well. And I thought, wow, the name is so cool and catchy and like a bit dreamy, but yet heartbreaking. So how to make it a children's story? And then, of course, for children, the fact of a stolen land is not really familiar because they don't really understand the concept of a land, but the home is. So that's where the title came as an inspiration. Yeah.
SubhanAllah, it's I've seen the book. I really like it. It's a very nice book, very nice children book, very international. And I think the story as well, it's from everything you have a little bit, the children, they look very like Turkmenistan, and it's everything is a bit I really like it. It's a very, very nice book,
Thank
very nice.
you so much.
Um
Yeah.
but how do you balance all of this? I mean, you write a book, now you tell me you have a child. There is professional responsibilities in your company, obviously. And then you write a children book, and I think you have the intention to write more of this because it sounds like a series, right?
Yes. Yeah, subhanAllah, I guess balancing all of this in life generally is as difficult as it could be for any other person. I guess, for my approach to this world, to this life, is now based on maximizing my ways to go to Jannah. And I think this is the
100%.
best way you can balance it. If I think of the fact that I'm being tired, that it's a charitable work, obviously nobody's paying me. I'm the one who's paying, like to make illustration happen or to make this, a trip happen to speak about the books, all of these
Sure.
things. But then, yeah, the only thing I guess could motivate anyone is understanding deeply that this life is short and how can we maximize it to basically create another door to go to Jannah, right? And I don't know, maybe it's gonna be the book, or maybe the fact that I'm taking care of my child properly, or maybe the fact that I'm helping this halal cosmetics company to, expand. So we never know. And not all of us can be hafiz, not all of us can be people of dawah, but we need to be able to do our own dawah in whatever industry we're in. So the only way I feel like I'm trying to balance is just by thinking, I may be so tired, I may be so sick, and I might not have time for something that I actually want to do, but at least maybe this is a way of me creating another door to potentially please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah.
I agree completely with that because this is the most important thing. I think when you really go and do something for the ummah, okay. I mean, we all worked in other places. We all worked with different companies, and be it in business or you work for somebody. But at the end, what are you doing for the ummah? What are you doing for yourself? What are you doing for Allah?
Yeah.
And these questions, I think, is really good. And if we think about it, we can really like implement all of this into our professional lifestyle. We don't have to separate everything. We can do everything
Yeah.
together. I mean, if you really want it, you can do it, and you are a very good example for that. That's
Inshallah, I mean,
definitely
yeah.
that's really good. And what kind of tips you have? I mean, there is a lot of people who want to do that, and I know quite a few writers as well.
Yeah.
But everything, but people run businesses, people work, people do all of this.
Yeah.
What tip do you have to actually do it? I mean, we spoke about it, we
Yeah.
tawakkul on Allah, ask Allah for guidance, obviously, but your personal tip,
Yeah.
how to do the how can you bear all of this?
Yeah. SubhanAllah, I think it's a journey. For some people, it might come faster, for some later. But for me, specifically, how it worked, I think now I have to dive deeper into a story of like how I ended up being here. In the first place, it started, I'm a former professional athlete, right? And there were reasons why sport became a huge part of my life is because I had difficulties in my family, and this was my way of basically finding a way to socialize with people and also maybe fighting my insecurities and becoming more confident. Alhamdulillah, it did help, but at the same time it became in a way like a religion to me. I was really prioritizing sport. I feel ashamed to say that, but maybe I was even forgetting about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But I think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really loves me and loved me because there were so many instances where he would harshly remind me of himself. So I just want to give you an example. Before I started to wear hijab, of course, I was not wearing it. And I would be like wearing sometimes non-modest clothes. So I went to this world championships, in fact, and I met somebody from Uzbekistan, and he knows that obviously I'm from Central Asia. And then it was time for prayer, and then we were eating lunch, and I'm like, "Oh, excuse me, I need to go to pray," I said. But I was wearing this like totally unmodest clothes. And then he looked at me, he's like, "Oh, you're a Muslim." And I'm like, "Of course I am." And he's like, "Oh, I see." And then later on, he came to me separately. He said, Guzelya, I know that you're a good, sportswoman and etc. But when you mentioned to me that you pray 5 times a day, I have to say that to you. You should wear a bit more modestly. And I actually couldn't take it badly from him because he told me it nicely and he told
Sure.
me it privately. So actually, he respected all the ways that you should, like how we should do dawah to each other, right? And then when he told me that, I felt really ashamed. And not because like a man told me that I'm not dressing modestly, but he's right. I know I should be, and why I'm still not doing it. So this was one of the reminders. And then later, one day, this was a legit one. My uncle started to tell, I forgot what it was about, but something related to Islam and prioritizing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we got into a small fight. And my uncle means everything to me. Like I listen to him more than I listen to my parents. And then he suddenly told me, you know what? I think your problem is your sport. It became your religion. And then when he told, of course, sport helped me a lot. We cannot deny this. It was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's way is also like to empower me and make me a better person. But it is true that I was prioritizing maybe sports a little more than I was prioritizing Islam. And then when he told me that, I said, no, it's not true. I cried, I left. But at home, I was thinking deeply, maybe it's true. And in fact, there were moments that it was true. So I think these were the crucial moments that reminded me of, if I don't prioritize Allah in this life, I will just spend this life by achieving whatever I achieve. But will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recognize me as an achiever in the day of judgment? And will I be able to justify myself, that I was prioritizing other things? So this is basically how my consciousness started to build. I started to wear hijab when it was the worst time to wear it in France, actually right after the
Mhm.
attack, Charlie Hebdo related attack, because I realized that, you know what? There will be never the best moment to wear hijab.
Exactly. Very good.
It will never, like, people will keep on hating us. There will be always Islamophobia. And I guess this is the challenge of being a Muslim. And if I know that this is the truth, I need to follow it, even if it's painful, even if it's hard. And inshallah, like I will get reward for that. So this was the moment I started to wear hijab. And then I was working in a mortgage brokerage company, which was pretty great. And it's obviously riba, right? So and then I didn't understand what riba meant in depth, and I was like feeling, wow, this is a really nice way to make money. It's so easy, in fact, as long as I can consult people properly, get them the right bank, the right offer. They signed a contract, and like it's like making thousands of dollars in a second, in a way. So subhanallah, I was like felt really like amazed by this. I also got certifications and like licenses to do this job. My companies were supporting and sponsoring me a lot. But then I was like thinking, hey, wait, like making money easily doesn't sound right. You know, it must be, there's some trick behind it. And then I start to do some research whether conventional finance is ethical. And I started to go deeper into all of this research, which led me to understand that as actual haram. And there is an ethical finance, which is Islamic finance, and also Christian finance and Jewish finance. But those other finances that are religion based are not being as practiced as the Islamic one, which is quite big, especially in Malaysia. Thomson Reuters report was in fact
Yes.
showing that Malaysia was a leading country in that. So I made myself like a decision. You know what? I will go to Malaysia. I don't know what I'll be doing there, but I want to learn about Islamic finance. So before I go too deeper, I just want to remind myself, what was your specific question? So I go directly into it now.
What tips do you have
Oh yeah,
for somebody
exactly. So
to
as you can
yeah,
see,
to juggling everything together?
up until as you can see this point, the tip number one is to know your priority.
Yeah.
Once I knew my priority was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything just started to go back into its place, and I started to make decisions that prioritize my Lord. Meaning, deep in my heart, I was still practicing taekwondo at that time, but I still told myself, wait a second, I need to like mentally prioritize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it was apparently not my subconsciously I was not doing it, right? So now I started consciously telling myself this is my priority. Then the fact that I started to wear hijab once again, based on my priority. The fact that I chose to go to Malaysia after all my experience globally, including the US, the country where everybody tries to live in and go in and work in, I still go to Malaysia. And even my boss in Malaysia told me, hey, like, why would you like come from the US to, like to Malaysia? I guess for you as a recent graduate, it's great to stay in the US and continue your career there. I'm like, well, in fact, because I'm Muslim, I want to learn on a halal way to finance, because one day I want to buy a house and I'm going to do it via mortgage. So I want to understand these things, can I get a halal mortgage? And if I can, how? And if I don't, how to make a service that would give a halal mortgage. So basically, all of this is based on the prioritizing Allah. So know your priority, number one. Number two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test you with both good opportunities and bad opportunities.
Yeah.
So there was a moment when I got an amazing opportunity, actually, in fact, with Société Générale Bank, which is a French bank. And I had a few opportunities with them before, but this was the third opportunity that sounded so tempting. It was basically in a CEO office working within three offices, like in Istanbul, in Paris, and in London. So it's like amazing. And then the company is pretty good. I really like the digital advancement. So I felt like, wow, this is like perfect for me. But when I got the offer, I was in a process of ta'aruf, which is like Islamic way of getting to know each other with my potential husband at that time, who's my husband now. And things were going pretty great. So I was like, okay, alhamdulillah. And I'm Islamically speaking, as a also by prioritizing Allah, I understand I would need to follow my husband further, which is a huge difference for me. I am not someone who follows guys. I am someone who just follows my own desires. I want to learn this. And then here I'm completely changing my mindset of marrying someone. So all my life decisions will be based on conversations and in accordance with this man, right? And so this is happening, but I'm not married yet. So I'm not married yet, but then I got the offer to do this job of my dream and offered to get married. So, and then I told my husband, right, like, hey, listen, like I got this offer, and he used to be a vice president and Societe Generale in Indonesia, in fact. So he knows how hard it is to get this kind of a job for someone like me, which is a recent graduate, et cetera, et cetera. And then he told me, so what's your decision? He just asked me. Because he's not forcing anything, and it's just like, so what would you prioritize? And then I was started to think, I'm like, you know what? I think I'll get married to you instead because and move to Indonesia. And this was, to be honest, a little bit crazy, but at the same time empowering because the decision not
Sure.
only coming from the point of view of, my duty and responsibility in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is creating a family, a Muslim family, and also potentially have children and all of this. Not only that, but also number two, I knew I'm smart. I can get this kind of job anytime. So, Alhamdulillah, I guess this would be my tip. Know your priority, know your values, and inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you better.
I can
And,
confirm.
and this is proven from my point of view and from the point of view of many other people that did the same,
Definitely.
inshallah.
Definitely. Know your priorities. This is if we can put it together, that's really good. The subhanAllah, I wanted exactly to ask you about the Islamic finance because I listened to a podcast of yours as well, and you were speaking
Mm.
about finance, and then I was asking how is it possible. So you already replied to that question. So now I know
Mm.
why are you in Islamic finance? Because going from Islamic
Yeah.
finance, going then to business development, growth in another company is two different things. So subhanallah, you
Yeah.
you you did some things in your life. That's very good. And I wanted to ask you as well about the martial arts,
Oh, yeah.
but you replied as well already. So because
Mhm.
me as well, I'm the same. I'm very very deep into martial arts, very long time.
MashaAllah. Mhm.
Alhamdulillah, I still practice a lot.
Yeah.
And maybe you're right sometimes, you like doing a lot of martial arts and doing maybe other things lesser. It's
Yeah.
possible, but I think the older you get, the more your body as well can take. So it's
Mm.
automatic that but the prioritization is definitely the number
Yeah.
one key, I would say. It's a very good point. Very, very good point.
And if I may add also regarding the tips, so throughout this journey of mine, they were really good books, literature that I got to read. So one of them is called, I'm pretty sure you're familiar, The Productive Muslim by Muhammad Faris, who's also
Yes,
a good friend of mine. And alhamdulillah, became a good friend of mine because, in fact, he was a good friend of my former boss. And he's the one that recommended me to read that book. And then later, of course, I met Muhammad Faris himself, and he's an amazing person and like quite inspirational. Recently, he launched another book called Baraka Effect, which I would say probably even better one. But yeah, definitely do check out the literature of those kind of people that spend years in the field of how to be successful both in dunya and akhirah. And you will be surprised that so many things are quite obvious, but they were put into a more systematic an order of things, like an order of things to do for you, so that inshallah you can accumulate more barakah and productivity in your life, while you can still be religious, please Allah
definitely.
subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also grow yourself as a human.
Alhamdulillah, that's a very nice reply, very nice reply. I only have a few more questions, and then we wrap it up because I know you're busy, and I'm
No
sure you
problem.
you have to go, inshallah, as well to the company and help them to grow again the beautiful cosmetics, halal cosmetics, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
what can you tell me what is the most, I mean, the most rewarding part of your journey writing the Islamic books for children, in general?
mm,
Like a point
yeah.
where you say like this is something
Mhm.
I'm, alhamdulillah, I know what I'm doing, and this is really like I have been rewarded already.
Oh yeah, I mean it's too many. Subhanallah, I cannot even yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
I think there's so many. Subhanallah, it's really surprising. Just to give you an example, I think I'll give you like at least three examples. Number one, when I wanted to write a book, I have zero idea how I'm gonna write about Palestinian story being a completely non-Palestinian, you know? And when I put this intention, and then suddenly those people that I also don't know that well, Palestinians and experts of what they like about the cause, they started to tell me, you can do it, you should do it, talk just about your story, all of these things. Of course, they were motivating, but what is my story? What is my angle? It's just, I'm just so much in pain. I have no clue how I can help these people. It was really troublesome. But then I was just praying, Ya Rabbi, like, I want to make this happen. I don't know how, but if it's meant to be, please give me some inspiration to write a story. And literally, I went to France. It was a winter holiday. And literally in one day, I just had the idea about this. Like I just said, okay, I know. And then I just started to write. And within 1 week, I finished the story. 1 week. I had zero idea in the beginning. And if it's not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing, like, I don't know, like how much, like, how can I write this happen, make this happen. Within 1 month, my illustrator was able to illustrate within one
Allah.
month, 16 pages. It is crazy. Like usually for an illustrator, it takes 3 months.
It takes quite a
And
long
if you
time.
hear, yeah, and if you hear her story, she just went for Umrah at that time while I was writing the book in Paris. She was in Umrah and she said, you know what? I cried. I cried and I asked Ya Rabbi, help me to help Palestinians. I don't have enough, like I don't have that much money. I cannot do any much impact. I don't have a big platform. But if there is anything I can help Palestinians with, please help me to make that happen. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't empower her to give her some kind of a magical amount of time available to make a 3 month work happen in 1 month, I don't know what kind of a reward it is, otherworldly. And then last but not least, I guess it's the meeting all these amazing and influential people. Like, I don't want to mention all of their names right now because, the,
Too
the,
many.
the, the work is still in progress. But subhanallah, like, these amazing people that I would just watch on TV and listen to their talks to, they want to be part of this. They want to translate the book into other languages. And I'm like, how do you know about this? Like, how can this even happen? And that's the moment where I'm like, I'm totally doing the right thing. And then people, even my illustrator last time, of course, she's being paid because I'm the one who's hiring her to make this work happen. But then she's telling me, Guzelya, no one is paying you. You still have so much energy. I'm like, I don't know, girl. Like, this is just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's project. And that's how I, talk about it. So I guess this a children's book thing is definitely, I never imagined, it to be so impactful already. I mean, I hope that, inshallah, this Sadaqah Jariyah could keep on going, and maybe the children
Inshallah.
after maybe 20 years or 30 years they will still be reading this kind of book. Hopefully this IP can go further, but for me already, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made me feel like I had purpose with this cause, and also potentially for Uyghur people, because those who know, they see the children wearing the Uyghur hats and they're like, hey, is this Doppa? Is this Uyghur? And I'm like, yeah, alhamdulillah, people are kind of like starting to get a bit more aware and interested about the cause. So inshallah, the next book, which hopefully will be launched in January, before Ramadan or during Ramadan, upcoming Ramadan,
Inshallah.
it will be about Uyghur cause. So it will be the next story, inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah. The one thing that I can do, that I can say to that is really dua. Dua can move mountains, and if
Yes.
anyone wants to do something, the dua is very important. Whether Allah replies to it or not, you can see directly. Is it good for you?
Yeah.
Is it not good for you? Ask, and everything will go its way. So this is for me is another
Yes.
example as dua is very, very, very powerful. One last question. Give me something, a message to the world. What is the one thing you wish for?
Mhm. For Muslims or non-Muslims?
Let's do it for everyone, inshallah.
For everyone, inshallah. Yeah, I guess I think there are three things that are quite important in this life, and I've actually mentioned them in my book. I want everyone to be unapologetic about their faith, and family and the freedom. Because, career, money, hobbies, uh, like status, whatever it is in life, it comes and goes. But I think what
It comes to an
stays,
end.
yeah, it comes to an end as well. Yeah, it comes and goes, it comes to an end. That's definitely the fact. But what will be constantly there is your faith, whatever you believe in, your family, whether they're good or bad, and your freedom. It's really important, right? So freedom is something you should always fight for. That's why I want you to be unapologetic about it, because once I got to know who I am and I embraced it and I started to prioritize these three things in life, Alhamdulillah, I believe that I make good choices and make good decisions that you're helping me to create and accumulate more barakah in my life.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khairan. It was
Ayakif.
amazing talking to you and Guzelya Marisova. It's a pleasure really to understand your life and to understand where you're going to. And I'm sure, inshallah, we're gonna cross path again and we will see more of your books.
Inshallah.
And we are here to support you as well, inshallah. So let us
Barakallah.
know. We stay in contact, inshallah. And inshallah khair.
Barakallah fik. Thank you so much.